I paid for my sister's debt, but she laughed at me and called me a loser. Thanks for the free money, she said, but she didn't know where I got the money from, and then Tiffany was crying so hard on the phone that I almost didn't recognize her voice. Kevin, please, I swear I'll pay you back. I just need $3,000. Just this once. I'm drowning here. I hesitated. Not because I didn't care, but because I knew Tiffany. She was always in a crisis, always in need of money, and somehow it was never her fault. But this time she sounded desperate. She said she was behind on her rent, that her landlord was threatening to evict her, that her car was about to be repossessed, that mom and dad weren't helping, that she had no one else. Please, Kev, you know I'd do the same for you. That was a lie. She wouldn't. But she was my sister, and I couldn't just let her get kicked out. The problem was, I didn't have $3,000. I barely had $300. But I knew someone who could help Dad. Dad had always been the responsible one. The kind of guy who believed in saving, budgeting, and never spending money on something stupid. He wasn't the type to hand out cash for no reason, but he trusted me. If I told him I needed it, he'd give it to me. So I asked? No details, no explanation. Just told him I needed a loan and promised I'd pay him back. Are you in some kind of trouble? He asked. No, I really need it, Dad. He sighed, but sent the money. And like a loser, I gave it all to Tiffany. She didn't say much for the next 2 days. No updates, no thanks, nothing. I figured she was still dealing with her problems, so I didn't press her. But on the third day, I stopped by her apartment, expecting at least some thanks. Maybe even a plan for how she was going to repay me. She opened the door with a big smile, looking like she didn't have a care in the world. Her nails were freshly done, she had a shopping bag from an expensive boutique on the couch, and she was sipping one of those overpriced iced coffees. I stood there confused. Are you okay? She laughed. Better than okay. Oh my God, Kev, you really saved me. Thanks for the freebie. I blinked. What? She grinned like it was a joke. Come on, you didn't really think I was going to pay you back, did you? I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Tiff, you promised. She rolled her eyes. Yeah, well, promises don't pay bills. You'll live. I just stared at her. I didn't even know what to say. And then my phone buzzed. It was Dad. Kevin. We need to talk. Now. My stomach dropped. He knew. I just stood there, staring at Tiffany as if I were seeing her for the first time. She really wasn't kidding. She really thought it was funny. You know I borrowed that money from Dad, right? That wiped the grin off her face. Wait, what? I clenched my fists. You really thought I had $3,000 just sitting around? She sat up straighter, her expression changing. You didn't tell me that. I didn't think I had to. I thought you were in real trouble, Tiff. She groaned, rubbing her temples. Great. Now he's going to be on my ass about it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That's what you're worried about. She stood up and grabbed her phone from the counter. Look, it's done, okay? He's not getting his money back, so I don't know what you want me to say. Maybe next time don't be such a pushover. I felt my blood pressure rise. You begged me for help. Yeah, well, maybe I overdid it a little. Whatever. You'll live. I opened my mouth to argue, but my phone buzzed. Dad, Kevin. We need to talk. Right now. I felt a wave of fear wash over me. Of course he knew. There was no hiding this. I looked at Tiffany. You better think of something. She just shrugged. Not my problem. I turned and walked out. Dad was waiting for me in the living room when I got home, arms crossed, jaw clenched. I had never seen him look so angry. Where's my money? I swallowed. I gave it to Tiffany. His expression didn't change. And when is she going to pay me back? Silence. His look was like a drill through my skull. Kevin. When is she going to pay me back? I let out a breath. She's not. For a second, I thought he was going to explode. Then he let out that short, humorless laugh and shook his head. "You mean to tell me," he said slowly, "that you took $3,000 from me, gave it to your sister, and she's just keeping it?" I nodded. He clenched his jaw so hard I thought his teeth would break. Then he grabbed his keys. "Where are you going?" I asked. "To get my damn money back." 20 minutes later, we pulled up to Tiffany's apartment. Dad didn't say a word the whole way. His hands were on the wheel, his knuckles white. Tiffany opened the door, took one look at him, and groaned. "Oh my God, really? You sent Dad after me?" Dad walked in without waiting for an invitation. "You have 2 days," he said. 2 days to pay me back. I don't care how you do it, but you do it." She crossed her arms. "And if I don't?" Dad smiled. "Then I'll make sure you don't have a place to live." Tiffany's face dropped. "What the hell does that mean?" "You pay me, or I call your landlord and pay your next month's rent myself. Then I'll tell him you're not renewing your lease because you're moving out." Her eyes widened. "You can't do that." Dad pulled out his phone. "Wanna bet?" For the first time, I saw real fear in Tiffany's face. Okay, she snapped. "Jesus! I'll get you the money. You have 2 days." He turned and walked out. I followed, still in shock. As we got into the car, Tiffany yelled after us. "This is bullshit. You can't just threaten me." Dad didn't even look back. "Watch me." As we pulled away, I could see her standing in the doorway, arms crossed, furious. But she knew Dad. He didn't make idle threats. And for the first time, I realized she was afraid. Tiffany didn't call. She didn't text. She didn't try to make things right. Instead, she doubled down. The next morning, Dad woke up to a long, angry voicemail from Mom. "You seriously threatened to kick your own daughter out? Over money? Are you out of your mind?" Mom always had a way of making everything Dad's fault. Tiffany could burn down the house, and Mom would blame the house for being flammable. Dad played the news on the loudspeaker while we ate breakfast. I kept my head down, shoveling eggs into my mouth as if I weren't in the middle of a family war. "She stole from me," Dad said, his voice calm but firm. "I don't let thieves live comfortably." Mom wasn't having it. "She's your daughter, not some random stranger. You're acting like a goddamn loan shark." Dad hung up. "I don't deal with idiots." I almost choked on my eggs. Around noon, Tiffany finally texted me. "Tiffany. Good job, idiot. Now Mom's on my case." Me. "You did it to yourself." Tiffany. "Oh, please. You're such a sycophant. You couldn't handle keeping your mouth shut for once?" Me. "You lied to me. You used me. What did you expect?" She left me reading. At that point, I thought she'd scramble to get the money. Sell something, get a payday loan, beg Mom for help. Anything. Instead, Mom showed up at our house that afternoon and stormed in like she owned the place. "You will not evict my daughter!" Dad didn't even look up from his newspaper. "She has 1 more day." Mom turned to me. "And you? How could you let this happen? You're her brother." I stared at her. She lied to me. She laughed in my face. "And you're defending her?" Mom scoffed. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. It's just money." Dad slammed the paper down. "Then you pay me back." Mom opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Dad stood up. "No, I didn't think so." Mom clenched her jaw. "You're a bully. I enforce consequences." Dad shot back. "Something you've never done." Mom turned on her heel and stomped for the door. "Come on, Tiffany. Let's go." "Wait, what?" I turned to see Tiffany standing at the top of the stairs, grinning. She had stayed here. Not even trying to clean up her mess. Just hiding, waiting for Dad to give in. Dad followed my gaze and let out a humorless laugh. "Unbelievable." Tiffany flipped her hair and grabbed her purse. "Whatever. I was getting sick of this place anyway. They both walked out, and for a second I thought that was it. Then I heard cracks smash. I ran outside and froze. Mom had just thrown a brick at Dad's windshield. Dad stepped onto the porch, completely still. He looked at the car, then at Mom, then pulled out his cell phone. Tiffany grabbed her arm. Mom, let's go. Mom didn't move. You wouldn't dare. Dad held up the phone for her to see. 911 dialed. Her face fell. You want to act like a criminal? Dad said. I'll treat you like one. And then he pressed call. Tiffany grabbed Mom's arm. Mom, let's go! But it was too late. Dad stood there, calm as ever, as the phone rang. Mom's face twisted with rage, but for the first time, I saw something else, panic. You're really calling the cops? She snapped. Dad didn't even look at her. Yes, I'd like to report vandalism on my property, he said into the phone. Tiffany's eyes darted between them. Jesus, it's just a windshield. Dad ignored her. Yes, I have the person responsible right here. Mom's breathing got heavy. She turned to Tiffany. Get in the car. Tiffany hesitated. No. She bolted to the car, but Dad just stepped forward and snapped a photo of the license plate. Mom turned back to him, her voice low and venomous. You just declared war. Dad didn't even blink. You started it. Minutes later, the police arrived. Tiffany was already gone, but Mom had been stupid enough to stick around. 2 officers got out of the cruiser, taking in the shattered windshield. Sir, you reported vandalism? One of them asked. Dad pointed straight at Mom. She did it. I want to press charges. Mom scoffed. Oh, for God's sake, it's a piece of glass. The officer frowned. Ma'am, did you break the windshield? Mom crossed her arms. So what if I did? It's his car. We're married. That makes it our car. The other officer shook his head. That's not how that works, ma'am. Dad didn't say a word. He just waited. Look, the first officer said. We can either handle this the easy way, or we can handle it the hard way. Mom rolled her eyes. Oh, please. What are you gonna do, arrest me? Turn around and put your hands behind your back. That wiped the smirk off her face. Wait. Are you serious? The officer pulled out his cuffs. You just admitted to property damage. Mom turned to Dad, furious. You're really gonna let them do this? Dad finally spoke. Actions have consequences. I watched as they cuffed her right there in the driveway. She twisted her head toward me. Kevin! Do something! I didn't move. As they put her in the back of the cruiser, she was still screaming. You better bail me out. Do you hear me? This isn't over. Dad and I stood there as the car pulled away. For a few seconds, it was just silence. Then Dad turned to me. I'll be inside if you need me. And he walked back into the house like nothing had happened. Mom spent 2 days in jail. 2 full days. I expected her to call me. I expected Tiffany to blow up my phone. But neither of them did. Instead, on the second night, Dad and I were sitting in the living room when my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to pick up. A robotic voice came through the speaker. You are receiving a collect call from. Then Mom's voice, flat and exhausted. Michelle. If you would like to accept the charges, press 1. I hesitated. Dad raised an eyebrow. Don't do it. I stared at the phone. She's still our mom. Dad didn't argue. He just watched. Waiting. I pressed 1. The second she heard the call connect, Mom launched into it. Kevin, oh my God, thank God. Your father is insane. You need to bail me out right now. I sat back. Mom. No, shut up. Listen to me. This is ridiculous. It's just a windshield. You seriously think I deserve to sit in a cell with criminals over a stupid piece of glass? I rubbed my temple. Mom, I don't have the money. She let out a sharp, humorless laugh. You think I don't know that? That's why I need you to get it from your father. I glanced at Dad. He already knew. He just shook his head. I sighed. Mom, that's not happening. Silence. Then, in a low voice, what did he do to you? What? She whispered now, like she thought someone was listening. You're not my son anymore. I can hear it. You sound just like him. That pissed me off. No, Mom, I just finally understand how much of a mess you and Tiffany actually are. She went dead quiet. Then she spat. You ungrateful little brat. The call cut off. I exhaled, staring at the blank screen. Dad took a sip of his coffee. Told you not to answer. Mom got out the next morning. Not because of us, because Tiffany found the money. Where did she get it? Who knows? Probably from Mom's emergency stash, or maybe she sweet-talked some guy into handing it over. Either way, she bailed Mom out first thing in the morning. And that's when the real war started. Because instead of coming back to talk things through like adults, Tiffany and Mom pulled up to the house in Tiffany's car, blaring the horn until we came outside. When Dad and I finally stepped onto the porch, Mom threw a wad of cash at Dad's feet. There's your damn money, she snapped. Dad didn't move. You still owe me for the windshield. Mom clenched her jaw. Screw you. Tiffany grinned from the driver's seat. Hey Kev, how's it feel to be Dad's little lapdog? I stared at her. How's it feel to beg for money every week? Her face dropped. Dad smirked. Go on. Get off my property. Mom grabbed Tiffany's arm and pulled her toward the car. Let's go. Tiffany hesitated, eyes burning into mine. You just wait, Kevin. You think Dad's the winning team? He's gonna turn on you too. Then she slammed the car door and sped off, tires screeching. I watched them go, heart pounding. Dad patted my shoulder. Welcome to the real world, kid. A week passed. A full, peaceful, drama-free week. No screaming phone calls. No surprise visits. No windshield smashing. It was almost weird. Then, one night, around dinner time, there was a knock at the door. I opened it, and there they were, Mom and Tiffany. But this time, they looked different. No smug smiles. No crossed arms. No attitude. Just quiet. Mom's eyes were red like she had been crying, and Tiffany wasn't even wearing makeup, which was a first. Dad walked up behind me, arms crossed. What do you want? Mom sighed. We came to talk. Dad didn't move. Mom took a shaky breath. I was wrong. About everything. That was not what I expected. Tiffany stepped forward. We both were. I squinted at her. Since when do you admit that? She forced a smile. Since we lost everything. I hesitated, looking at Dad. He said nothing, just watching. Mom cleared her throat. Can we come in? I could feel Dad's resistance. But after a long pause, he stepped aside. 5 minutes, he said. That's all you get. They sat at the kitchen table, looking uncomfortable. Mom kept wringing her hands, and Tiffany actually looked nervous. It was surreal. I was angry, Mom said. But I had time to think. And I realized, you were just holding me accountable. Something no one's ever done before. Tiffany nodded. Same. I screwed up, Kev. I took advantage of you, and I shouldn't have. Dad didn't say a word. I folded my arms. So what do you want? Mom looked up. A fresh start. We want to fix things. Tiffany nodded. We're family. We shouldn't be fighting like this. I glanced at Dad, waiting for him to say something, but he was just staring at them. Something wasn't right. But before I could say anything, Mom sighed. Look, I know we don't deserve your trust. But I promise, we're done with all the nonsense. No more fighting. No more drama. No more stupid money issues. Dad finally spoke. That's so? Mom nodded. We just want things to go back to how they were. Silence. Then Dad exhaled, rubbing his temples. Fine. But this is your last chance. Mom's face lit up. Of course. We understand. Tiffany smiled. Thanks, Kev. For a second, I actually believed them. At 3 a.m., I woke up to Dad yelling. I ran downstairs and found him standing in the living room, his safe wide open. Empty. I froze. What happened? Dad turned to me, his face pure rage. They stole from me. I felt my stomach drop. What? He pointed at the safe. That money? The emergency stash? Gone. It took me a second to process. You think Mom and Tiff? Dad scoffed. Who the hell else? They were the only ones here today. I grabbed my phone and called Tiffany. Straight to voicemail. I called Mom. Same thing. Dad paced the room, clenching his fists. I gave them one last chance. I ran a hand through my hair. What do we do? He turned to me. We end this. By morning, Dad had a plan. He wasn't going to chase them. He wasn't going to call and beg for his money back. No, he was going to do something worse. He was going to ruin them. I sat across from him at the kitchen table, watching as he sipped his coffee like he hadn't just been robbed blind by his own wife and daughter. Here's what's going to happen, he said, voice calm, steady. They took my money, so I'm taking everything else. I blinked. What does that mean? He looked up at me. It means they don't exist anymore. Then he got to work. First, he reported his money stolen. But not just to the police, he also called the bank, canceled every credit card that Mom had access to, froze every account, and cut her off completely. The joint accounts? Closed. The car she was driving? Registered under his name. He called the repo company and told them exactly where to find it. By noon, Mom was stranded. Then came Tiffany. Dad knew her landlord. He made a single phone call, told him about her financial situation, and within hours, the landlord posted an eviction notice on her door. Turns out, she had been late on rent for 3 months straight. She had nowhere to go. By evening, the storm had started. Mom called first. Her voice was shrill, frantic. You sick son of a, you took my money! Dad didn't even let her finish. I took back what was mine. You stole from me. Now you have nothing. You can't just cut me off. I can. And I did. Then he hung up. Tiffany called next. You got me evicted? She screamed. Dad chuckled. Actions have consequences. You're a monster. You're a thief. She was sobbing now. Where am I supposed to go? He sighed. Not my problem. And he hung up on her too. For the first time in my life, Mom and Tiffany were completely alone. No money. No home. No car. Nothing. And that's when karma kicked in. A week later, I got a text from an unknown number. Kevin. Please. I have nowhere to go. It was Tiffany. I hesitated. Then I looked her up on social media. What I found was brutal. She was living out of a motel, sharing a room with Mom. Broke, desperate, and struggling. And Mom? She had lost her job. Turns out, getting arrested didn't look too good on a resume. They were completely wrecked. And I should have felt bad. But I didn't. I stared at Tiffany's message. Then I typed back 2 words. Not my problem. And I blocked her.